Hello, freak bitches. Do you think in our lifetimes, or in our children's lifetime, it's feasible that we figure out a way, in some way, to? I'm not endorsing like taking people's money and giving it to other people, but in some sort of a way to eliminate poverty. Is that even possible?
Well,
Is it
yeah.
ever going to be
Well, yeah.
possible to completely eliminate poverty worldwide and within like a lifetime?
Well, I think we talked about this the last time when we spoke about AI, but I mean, this is the implication of much of what we talked about here. If you imagine building the perfect labor-saving technology, right, where you imagine just having a machine that can build any machine that can do any human labor, powered by sunlight, more or less for the cost of raw materials, right? So you're talking about the ultimate wealth generation device. And now we're not just talking about blue collar labor, we're talking about the kind of labor you and I do, right? So like the artistic labor and scientific labor and, just a machine that comes up with good ideas, right? So we're talking about general artificial intelligence. This, if in the right political and economic system, this would just cancel any need for people to have to work to survive, right? It just would be, there'd be enough of everything to go around. And then the question would be, do we have the right political and economic system where we actually could spread that wealth? Or would we just find ourselves in some kind of horrendous arms race and a situation of wealth inequality unlike any we've ever seen? We don't have it's not in place now. I mean, if someone just handed us this device, if and it were, all of my concerns about AI were gone. I mean, there's no question about this thing doing things we didn't want. It would do exactly what we want when we want it, and there's just no danger of its interests becoming misaligned with our own. It's just like a perfect oracle and a perfect designer of new technology. If it was handed to us now, I would expect just complete chaos, right? I would expect if Facebook built this thing tomorrow and announced it, or rumor spread that they had built it, right? What are the implications for Russia and China? Well, insofar as they are as adversarial as they are now, it would be rational for them to just nuke California, right? Because having this device is just a winner-take-all scenario. I mean, you win the world if you have this device. You can turn the lights off in China, the moment you have this device. You can just, it's just the ultimate, because literally we're talking about, and many people may doubt whether such a thing is possible, but again, we're just talking about the implications of intelligence that can make refinements to itself over a time course that bears no relationship to what we experience as apes, right? So you're talking about a system that can make changes to its own source code and become better and better at learning and more knowledgeable, and has instantaneous, if we give it access to the internet, it has instantaneous access to all human and machine knowledge, and it does, thousands of years of work every day of our lives, right? It's thousands of years of equivalent human-level intellectual work. It's just our intuitions completely falter to capture just how immensely powerful such a thing would be, and there's no reason to think this isn't possible. I mean, the most skeptical thing you can honestly say about this is that this isn't coming soon, right? It's like this is not, but to say that this is not possible makes no scientific sense at this point. There's no reason to think that a sufficiently advanced digital computer can't instantiate general intelligence of the sort that we have. There's no reason to think that. I mean, the intelligence has to be at bottom some form of information processing. And if we get the algorithm right with enough hardware resources, and the limit is definitely not the hardware at this point, it's the algorithms, there's just no reason to think this can't take off and scale, and that we would be in the presence of something that is like having an an alternate human civilization in a box that is making thousands of years of progress every day, right? So just imagine that if you had in a box, the 10 smartest people who've ever lived, and every week they make 20,000 years of progress, right? Because that is the actual. We're talking about electronic circuits being 1,000,000 times faster than biological circuits. So even if it was just, and I believe I said this the last time we talked about AI, but this is what brings it home for me. Even if it's just a matter of faster, right? It's not anything especially spooky. It's just this can do human level intellectual work, but just 1,000,000 times faster. And again, this totally undersells the prospects of superintelligence. I think human level intellectual work is going to seem pretty paltry in the end. But if you just imagine just speeding it up, if you imagine if we were doing this podcast, imagine how smart I would seem if between every sentence I actually had a year to figure out what I was going to say next, right? And so I say this one sentence, and you ask me a question, and then in my world, I just have a year. I'm going to go spend the next year getting ready for Joe, and it's going to be perfect. And this is just compounding upon itself. Like not only am I working faster, ultimately I can change my ability to work faster. I mean, like we're talking about software that can change itself. You're talking about something that becomes self-improving. So there's a compounding function there. But the point is it's unimaginable in terms of how much change this could affect. And if you imagine the best case scenario where this is under our control, right, where there's no alignment problem, where it's just this thing doesn't do anything that surprises us, this thing will always take direction from us. It will never develop interests of its own, right? Which is again the fear. But let's just say this is totally obedient. It's just an oracle and a genie, in one. And we say cure Alzheimer's, and it cures Alzheimer's. You solve the protein folding problem, and it's just off and running, and to develop a perfect nanotechnology, and it does that. This is all, again, going back to David Deutsch. There's no reason to think this isn't possible, because anything that's compatible with the laws of physics can be done given the requisite knowledge, right? So you get enough intelligence, as long as you're not violating the laws of physics, you can do something in that space. But the problem is this is a winner-take-all scenario. So if Facebook does it tomorrow and China and Russia find out about it, they can't afford to wait around to see whether the U.S. decides to do something not entirely selfish with this, right? Because their worst fears could be realized. If Donald Trump is president, what's Donald Trump going to do with a perfect AI when he has already told the world that he, hates Islam, right? We would have to have a political and economic system that allowed us to absorb this ultimate wealth-producing technology. And again, so this may all sound like pure sci-fi craziness to people. I don't think there is any reason to believe that it is, but walk way back from that edge of craziness and just look at dumb AI, narrow AI, just self-driving cars and automation and intelligent algorithms that can do human-level work. That is already poised to change our world massively and create massive wealth inequality, which we have to figure out how to spread this wealth. What do you do when you can automate 50% of human labor?
Were you paying attention to the artificial intelligence Go match?
Yeah.
Explain
I don't actually play Go, so I wasn't paying that kind of attention to it, but I'm aware of what happened there.
Do you know the rules of Go?
Not so that I know. Actually, I don't play it. I don't. I know vaguely how it looks when a game is played, but I don't.
It's supposed to be very complicated, though.
Oh yeah,
more complicated and more possibilities than chess.
Oh yeah, and that's why it took 20 years longer for a computer to be the best player in the world. It is.
Did you see how the computer did it too?
Well, I didn't. I know. I mean, so the company that did it is DeepMind, which was acquired by Google, and they're at the cutting edge of AI research.
Skynet.
And yeah, well, it's the cartoons are unfortunately not so far from what is possible. But yeah, I mean, there's again, this is not general intelligence. Like we're talking, so
Right.
like these are not machines that can even play tic-tac-toe. Right now, there have been some moves away from this. So like DeepMind has trained an algorithm to play all of the Atari games, like from 1980 or whenever, and it very quickly became superhuman on most of them. I don't think it's superhuman on all of them yet, but it could play, Space Invaders and all these, and Breakout and all these games that are highly unlike one another, and it's the same algorithm becoming expert and superhuman in all of them, and that's a new paradigm, and it's using a technique called deep learning for that, and that's been very exciting, and it will be incredibly useful. The flip side of all of this. I know that everything I tend to say on this sounds scary, but this is all like, the next scariest thing is not to do any of this stuff. It's like we want intelligence, we want automation, we want to figure out how to solve problems that we can't yet solve. So like intelligence is the best thing we've got. So we want more of it. But we have to have a system where, it's scary that we have a system where if you gave the best possible version of it to one research lab or to one government, it's not obvious that wouldn't destroy humanity, right? That wouldn't lead to massive dislocations where you'd have, some trillionaire who's trumpeting his new device and just 50% unemployment in the U.S. In a month, right? It's not obvious how we would absorb this level of progress, and we definitely have to figure out how to do it. And of course, we can't assume the best case scenario, right? That's the best case scenario.
I think there's a few people that put it the way you put it that terrify the shit out of people.
Right.
And everyone else seems to have this rosy vision of increased longevity and automated everything and everything fixed and easy to get to work, and medical procedures would be easier. They're going to know how to do it better. Everybody looks at it like we are always going to be here. But are we obsolete? Is this idea of a living thing that's creative and wrapped up in emotions and lust and desires and jealousy and all the pettiness that we see celebrated all the time, we still see it. It's not getting any better, right? Are we obsolete? What if this thing comes along and says, listen, there's a way to do, you can abandon all that stupid shit. You can abandon all the stuff that makes you fun to be around. Yeah. It also fucks with you. You can live 3 times as long without that stuff.
Oh, well, I think it would, in the best case, would usher in the possibility of just kind of a fundamentally creative life, where on the order of something like the Matrix, whether it's in the Matrix or it's just in the world that has been made as beautiful as possible, based on what would functionally be an unlimited resource of intelligence. It's right. Just like for there to be an ability to solve problems of a sort that we can't currently imagine. It really is like a place on the map that you can't. You can indicate it's over there. It's like the blank spot on the map. This is why it's called the singularity, right? It's like it was John von Neumann, the inventor of game theory, who a mathematician who is one, along with Alan Turing and a couple of other people, is really responsible for the computer revolution. He was the first person to use this term singularity to describe just this: that there's a speeding up of information processing technology and a cultural reliance upon it, beyond which we can't actually foresee the level of change that can come over our society. It's like an event horizon past which we can't see, and this certainly becomes true when you talk about these intelligent systems being able to make changes to themselves. And again, we're talking mostly software. It's not. I'm not imagining. I mean, the most important breakthroughs are almost certainly at the level of better software. I mean, is we have, in terms of the computing power, that if the physical hardware on Earth, it's not. That's not what's limiting our AI at the moment. It's not like we need more hardware, but we will get more hardware too, up to the limits of physics, and it'll get smaller and smaller as it has. And if quantum computing becomes possible or practical, that will. And actually, David Deutsch is the physicist I mentioned, is one of the fathers of the concept of quantum computing. That will open up a whole nother area, extreme of computing power that is not at all analogous to the kinds of machines we have now. But it's just, when you imagine, I mean, people seem to always want to, I mean, I just had this conversation with Neil deGrasse Tyson on my podcast. He
Name dropper?
Yeah, right. No, it was just, I'm just keeping people, I'm just attributing these ideas to him. He's not at all, he doesn't take this line at all. He's not at all, he thinks it's all bullshit, right? He's not at all worried about AI, right?
What does he think?
He thinks that, we just use, he's drawing an analogy from how you currently use computers, that they just keep helping us do what we want to do. Like, we decide what we want to do with computers, and we just add them to our process, and that process becomes automated, and then we'll find new jobs somewhere else. Like, you don't need a stenographer once you have voice recognition technology, and that's not a problem. A stenographer will find something else to do, and so the economic dislocation isn't that bad. And computers will just get better than they are, and eventually Siri will actually work, and she'll answer your questions well, and it's not going to be a laugh line what Siri said to you today, and then all of this will just proceed to make life better. Right now, none of that is imagining what it will be like to make, because there will be a certain point where you'll have systems that are, it's like the best chess player on Earth is now always going to be a computer, right? There's not going to be a human born tomorrow that's going to be better than the best computer. I mean, that's like, we have superhuman chess players on Earth. Now imagine having computers that are superhuman at every task that is relevant, every intellectual task, right? So the best physicist is a computer. The best medical diagnostician is a computer. The best prover of math theorems is a computer. The best engineer is a computer, right? There's no reason why we're not headed there. I mean, it would be, the only reason I could see we're not headed there is that something massively dislocating happens that prevents us from continuing to improve our intelligent machines. But if you just, the moment you admit that intelligence is just a matter of information processing, and you admit that we will continue to improve our machines unless something heinous happens, because this intelligence and automation are the most valuable things we have, at a certain point, whether you think it's in 5 years or 500 years, we are going to find ourselves in the presence of super intelligent machines. And then at that point, the best source of innovation for the next generation of software or hardware or both will be the machines themselves, right? So then that's where you get what the mathematician I.J. Good described as the intelligence explosion, which is just the process can take off on its own, and this is where the singularity people either are hopeful or worried, but because there's no guarantee that this process will remain aligned with our interests, and every person who I meet, even very smart people like Neil, who says they're not worried about this, when you actually drill down on why they're not worried, you find that they're actually not imagining machines making changes to their own source code, and they're not, or they simply believe that this is so far away that we don't have to worry about it now, right? And that's actually a non sequitur. I mean, to say that this is far away is not actually grappling with. It's not an argument that this isn't going to happen, and
it's based on what too?
And it's based on. I mean, first of all, there's no reason to believe.
Jamie, you want to find out where that is?
There's no. I mean, we don't know how long it will take us to prepare for this, right? So, like if you knew this, it was going to take 50 years for this to happen,
right?
Is 50 years enough for us to prepare politically and economically to deal with the ramifications of this, and to do it, and to say nothing of actually building the AI safely in a way that's aligned with our interests? I don't know. I mean, 50 years is like we've had the iPhone for what, 10 years, 9 years, something. I mean, it's like 50 years is not a lot of time, right? To deal with this, and there's just no reason to think it's that far away if we keep making progress. I mean, it's not. It would be amazing if it were 500 years away. I mean, that seems like it's more likely. I mean, from what the sense I get from the people who are doing this work, it's far more likely to be 50 years than 500 years. Like, I mean, the people who think this is a long, long way off are, I mean, they're saying, 50 to 100 years. No one says 500 years. No, as far as I know, no one who's actually close to this work. And some people think it could be in 5 years, right? I mean, the people who are, like the deep mind people who are very close to this are the sorts of people who say, because the people who are close to this work are astonished by what's happened in the last 10 years. Like, we went from a place of, very little progress to, wow, this is all of a sudden really, really interesting and powerful. And again, progress is compounding in a way that's counterintuitive. People systematically overestimate how much change can happen in a year and underestimate how much change can happen in 10 years. And, as far as estimating how much change can happen in 50 or 100 years, I don't know that anyone is good at that.
How could you be? With giant leaps come giant exponential leaps off those leaps, and it's almost impossible for us to really predict what we're going to be looking at 50 years from now. But I don't know what they're going to think about us. That's what's most bizarre about it. Is we really might be obsolete. If we look at how ridiculous we are, look at this political campaign, look at what we pay attention to in the news, look at the things we really focus on. We're a strange, ridiculous animal. And why, if we looked back on, some strange dinosaur that had a weird neck, why should that fucking thing make it? Why should we make it? We might be here to make that thing. And that thing takes over from here with no emotions, no lust, no greed, and just purely existing electronically. And for what reason?
Well, that's a little scary. There are computer scientists who, when you talk about why they're not worried, or talk to them about why they're not worried, they just swallow this pill without any qualm. Like, we're going to make the thing that is far more powerful and beautiful and important than we are, and it doesn't matter what happens to us. I mean, that was our role. Our role was to build these mechanical gods, and it's fine if they squash us. And I've literally heard
You've heard people say
I've
that?
heard someone give a talk. I mean, that's what woke me up to how interesting this area is. I went to this conference in San Juan about a year ago, and there were like the people from DeepMind were there, and there were the people who were very close to this work were there, and I mean, to hear some of the reasons why you shouldn't be worried from people who were interested in calming the fears so they could get on with doing their very important work, it was amazing, because they were highly uncompelling reasons not to be worried. It was just so
they had they had a desire to be compelled. They're not
Well, no,
worried at all.
that people want to do this. There's a deep assumption in many of these people that we can figure it out as we go along, right?
That's
It's like,
so scary.
You know, it's just like we're gonna get closer. We're far enough away now. Even 5 years, even if it's 5 years, we'll get there. Once we get closer, once we get something a little scary, then we'll pull the brakes and talk about it. But the problem is, everyone is essentially in a race condition by default. I mean, you have, Google is racing against Facebook, and the U.S. is racing against China, and every group is racing against every other group. However you want to conceive of groups, this is to be the first one with incredibly powerful narrow AI is to be the next, multi-billion-dollar company, right? So everyone's trying to get there, and if they suddenly get there and sort of overshoot a little bit, and now they've got something like general intelligence, or something close. What we're relying on and they know everyone else is attempting to do this, right? We don't have a system set up where everyone can pull the brakes together and say, listen, we got to stop racing here. We have to share everything. We have to share the wealth. We have to share the information. We have to, this truly has to be open source in every conceivable way. And we have to diffuse this winner-take-all dynamic. I think we need something like a Manhattan Project to figure out how to do that. Not to figure out how to build the AI, but to figure out how to build it in a way that does not create an arms race, that does not create an incentive to build unsafe AI, which is almost certainly going to be easier than building safe AI, and just to work out all of these issues, because it's not, because I think we're going to build this by default. We're just going to keep building more and more intelligent machines, and this is going to be done by everyone who can do it. And with each generation, if we're even talking about generations, it will have the tools made by the prior generation that are more powerful than anyone imagined 100 years ago, and it's going to keep going like that.
Did anybody actually make that quote about giving birth to the mechanical gods?
No, that was just me. Yeah, but
there was a scientist that actually was thinking and saying that.
But that was the content of what he was saying. He's like, we're going to build the next species that is far more important than we are, and that's a good thing. And actually, I can go there with him. I mean, it's the only caveat here is that unless they're not conscious, right? Like, so if the true horror for me is that we can build things more intelligent than we are, more powerful than we are, and that can squash us, and they might be unconscious, right? Like, there might be nothing, like the universe could go dark if they squash us, right? Or at least our corner of the universe could go dark.
Right.
And yet these things will be immensely powerful. So and this is just, the jury's out on this, but if there's nothing about intelligence scaling that demands that consciousness come along for the ride, then it's possible that, nobody thinks our machines are, very few people would think our machines that are intelligent are conscious, right? So at what point does consciousness come online? Maybe it's possible to build superintelligence that's unconscious. Super powerful, does everything better than we do. It'll recognize your emotion better than another person can, but the lights aren't on. That's also, I think, possible. But maybe it's not possible. But that's the worst case scenario, because in the ethical silver lining, speaking outside of our self-interest now, but just from a bird's eye view, the ethical silver lining to building these mechanical gods that are conscious is that, yes, okay, in fact, if we have built something that is far wiser and has far more beautiful experiences and deeper experiences of the universe than we could ever imagine, and there's something that it's like to be that thing. That's just it has a kind of a godlike experience. Well, that would be a very good thing. Then we will have built something that was, if you stand outside of our narrow self-interest, I can understand why he would say that. He was just assuming. What was scary about that particular talk is he was assuming that consciousness comes along for the ride here, and I don't know that that is a safe assumption.
Well, and the really terrifying thing is if this is constantly improving itself, and it's under the beck and call of a person, then. So it's either conscious.
Well, not
it's either conscious where it
yeah.
acts as itself, right? It acts as an individual thinking unit, right? Or as a thing outside of it. It's aware, right? Either it is or it isn't. And if it isn't aware, and some person can manipulate it, like imagine if it's getting 10,000. How many thousands of years in a week did you say?
Well, if it was just
improvement?
if it was just 1,000,000 times faster than we are, it's 20,000 years.
20,000 years in a week.
In a week, yeah.
In a week. Yeah. So with every week, this thing constantly gets better at even doing that, right?
Yeah.
So it's reprogramming itself. So it's all exponential.
Presumably, just imagine. Again, you could keep it in the most restricted case. You could just keep it at our level, but just faster, just 1,000,000 times faster.
But if it did all these things, if it kept going and kept every week was thousands of years,
right?
We're going to control it? A person?
No, I know.
A regular person? That's even more insane.
Just imagine being in dialogue with something that lived the 20,000 years of human progress in a week, and you come back, on Monday and say, "Listen, that thing I told you to do last Monday, I want to change that up." And this thing has made 20,000 years of progress. And if it's in a condition where it has access, so we're imagining this thing, in a box, air gapped from the internet, and it's got nothing, it's got no way to get out, right? Even that is an unstable situation. But just imagine this emerging in some way online, right? Already being out in the wild, right? So let's say it's in a financial market, right? That's, again, this is what worries me most about this, and what is also interesting is that our intuitions here. I think the primary intuition that people have is, no, that's just not possible or not at all likely. But if you're gonna think it's impossible or even unlikely, you have to find something wrong with the claim that intelligence is just a matter of information processing. I don't know any scientific reason to doubt that claim at the moment, and very good reasons to believe that it's just undoubtable, and you have to doubt that we will continue to make progress in the design of intelligent machines. But once you all that's left is just time, right? If intelligence is just information processing, and we are going to continue to build better and better information processors, at a certain point, we're going to build something that is superhuman. And so whether it's in 5 years or 50, it's the biggest change in human history I think we can imagine, right? And people, I keep finding myself in the presence of people who seem, at least to my eye, to be refusing to imagine it. Like they're treating it like the Y2K virus or whatever, or the Y2K bug, where it just may or may not be an issue, right? Like it's a hypothetical. Like this is just, we're going to get there, and it's going to be, it's either not going to happen or it's going to be trivial. But if you don't have an argument for why this isn't going to happen, then you have to have, then you're left with, okay, what's it going to be like to have systems that are better than we are at everything in the intellectual space, and what will happen if that suddenly happens in one country and not in another, right? It has enormous implications, but it just sounds like science fiction.
I don't know what's scarier: the idea that an artificial intelligence can emerge, it's conscious, it's aware of itself, and then acts to protect itself, or the idea that a regular person like of today, could be in control of essentially a god.
Right.
Because if this thing continues to get smarter and smarter with every week, and more power and more potential, more and more understanding, thousands of years. I mean, it's just
Yeah.
this
Yeah.
one person, regular person controlling that is almost more terrifying than creating a new life.
Yeah. Or any group of people who don't have the total welfare of humanity as their central concern.
And
So
who
just
would-
imagine, I mean, what would China do with
Yeah.
it now, right? What would we do if we thought China, if Baidu or some Chinese company was on the verge of this thing? What would it be rational for us to do? I mean, if North Korea had it, it'd be rational to nuke them, given what they say about their relationship with the rest of the world. So it's
Well,
yeah,
that kind
it's
of power
totally
just
destabilizing.
isn't rational. That kind of power it's so life changing. It's so paradigm shifting.
Right. But if you to wind this back to what someone like Neil deGrasse Tyson would say is that the only basis for fear is, don't give your super intelligent AI to the next Hitler, right? That's obviously bad. But if we're not idiots and we just use it well, we're fine. And that, I think, is an intuition that's just a failure to unpack what is entailed by, again, something like an intelligence explosion, a process that once you're talking about something that is able to change itself, and you have to guarantee. So, what would it be like to guarantee? Let's say we decide, okay, we're just not going to build anything that can make changes to its own source code. Any change to software at a certain point is going to have to be run through a human brain, and we're going to have veto power. Well, is every person working on AI going to abide by that rule? It's like we've agreed not to clone humans, right? But are we going to stand by that agreement for the rest of human history? And is our agreement binding on China or Singapore or any other country that might think otherwise? It's just it's a free for all, and at a certain point we're going to be close enough. Everyone's going to be close enough to making the final breakthrough that. Unless we have some agreement about how to proceed, someone is going to get there first.
That is a terrifying scenario of the future. You cemented this last time you were here, but not as extreme as this time. You seem to be accelerating the rhetoric.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. I'm.
You're going deep.
Yeah.
Ooh, boy, I hope you're wrong. I'm on team Neil deGrasse Tyson on this one.
Yeah,
Woo! Go Neil.
So in defense of the other side too, I should say that so David Deutsch also thinks I'm wrong, but he thinks I'm wrong because we will integrate ourselves with these machines. I mean, so that there'll be extensions of ourselves, and they can't help but be aligned with us because we will be connected to them.
That seems to be the only way we can all get along. We have to merge and become one.
Yeah, but I just think there's no deep reason why. Like even if we decided to do that, right? Like in the U.S. or in half the world, I think there are reasons to worry that even that could go haywire. But there's no guarantee that someone else couldn't just build AI in a box. I mean, if we can build AI such that we can merge our brains with it, someone can also just build AI in a box, right? And that's and then you inherit all the other problems that people are saying we don't have to worry about.
If it was a good Coen Brothers movie, it would be invented in the middle of the presidency of Donald Trump. Yeah. And so that's when AI would go live, and then AI would have to challenge Donald Trump, and they would have like an insult contest.
But that's when this thing becomes so comically terrifying, where it's just imagine Donald Trump being in a position to make the final decisions on topics like this for the country that is going to do this almost certainly in the near term. It's like, should we have a Manhattan Project on this point, Mr. President? The idea that anything of value could be happening between his ears on this topic or 100 others like it, I think is now really inconceivable. And so what price might we pay for that kind of inattention and self-satisfied inattention to these kinds of issues?
Well, this issue, if this is real and if this could go live in 50 years, this is the issue.
Yeah.
I mean, unless
yeah,
we fuck
yeah.
ourselves up beyond repair before then and shut the power off. If it keeps going,
Yeah,
I think,
no, I think it is. I think it is the issue, but unfortunately, it's the issue that doesn't. It sounds like a goof,
Yeah,
right?
it does.
It just
It
sounds.
does.
You sound like a crackpot even worrying about this issue.
it sounds completely ridiculous.
Yeah.
But that might be how it's sneaking in.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's just just imagine that the tiny increment that would suddenly make it compelling. I mean, just imagine. I mean, chess doesn't do it because chess is so far from any central human concern. But just imagine if your phone recognized your emotional state better than your best friend or your wife or anyone in your life, and it did it reliably, right?
And it
So
was your buddy, like that movie with Joaquin
oh,
Phoenix.
Her,
Yeah. He falls in love with his phone, right?
I mean, that's just not, that is not
Far off.
that far off. It's
No.
not. It's a very discrete ability. I mean, you could do that. You could do that without any other ability in the phone. Really, it's like it doesn't have to stand on the shoulders of any other kind of intelligence. It could just, you have. I mean, this could be. You could do this with just brute force in the same way that you have a great chess player that doesn't necessarily understand that it's playing chess. You could have, it's kind of the facial recognition of emotion and the tone of voice recognition of emotion, and the idea that it's going to be a very long time for computers to get better than people at that, I think is very far-fetched.
I was thinking, yeah, I think you're right. I was just thinking, how strange would it be if you had like headphones on and your phone was in your pocket and you had rational conversations with your phone? Like your phone knew you better than you know you. Like, I mean, I don't know what to do. I mean, I don't think I was out of line. She yelled at me. I mean, what should I say?
And it would listen to every one of your
yeah.
conversations with your friends and,
Exactly.
and train up on that.
And just talk
yeah.
to you about it and go, listen, man, this is what you got to do.
You
You got to
sounded
stop
way
being
too
a pussy.
critical. Yeah, you were sounding angry.
You got defensive.
Yeah,
You got defensive.
Why
okay?
were you so
Pull
defensive with
back,
Joe? Yeah.
Apologize, relax, let's all move on. Like, you could accelerate it, or okay, you're right, man. And like you're talking this little artificial. Maybe that's the first version of artificial intelligence that we suggest. We say, all right, let's give it a shot. And like self-help guys in your phone,
Right.
you have like a personal trainer in your phone.
How to talk to girls.
It tells you everything.
Breakthrough, yeah.
Slow down, dude. Slow down. You're talking too fast. Gotta act cool. Yeah, that would. I mean, literally like giving you information. That would be like step one. That would be like the Sony Walkman. Remember when you had a Walkman, like a cassette player?
Yeah.
That was like that was
Like a VCR on
yeah.
your
We were on our way to what we have today, where you have fucking 30,000 songs in your phone or something.
I think
Yeah.
I remember the first Walkman. The first thing is back when I skied. There was something called Astral Tunes or something. It was like a car radio that you could just put on in a pack on your chest. Yeah, it was
If they kept coming out with
8
those,
pounds.
they would get smaller and smaller. So then that little dude would start telling you, yo, man, dude, listen, they keep replacing me every year. Just let them stick me in your brain. We'll be together all the time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've been giving you good advice for years, bro.
Right.
Let me in your brain. And so you and this little artificial intelligence, you have a relationship over time. And eventually it talks you into getting your head drilled. And they screw it in there. And your artificial intelligence is always powered by your central nervous system.
Have you seen most of these movies? Like, did you see Her and
No, I didn't.
Okay.
No.
And
Does
Ex
that
Machina?
happen?
Did you see
I saw
Ex
Ex
Machina?
Machina.
Yeah.
That was one of my
That was good.
top 10 all-time favorite movies.
Yeah.
I loved that movie.
Actually,
thought that movie was
I liked it.
amazing.
I saw it twice. I was slow to realize how well they did it. I mean, it was just the first time I saw it, I thought I wasn't as impressed. And I watched it again, and they really. I mean, first of all, the performance of I forgot the actress's name, Vikander, Alicia Vikander or something. The woman who plays the robot in Ex Machina is just fantastic. But
Scary good.
Yeah.
Tuck you in anything.
We're getting a little full on time.
Yeah, what are we, like 5 hours in?
4.5 hours in, but I just got a note. This is about to fill up.
Wait a
So
minute,
it's
how many hours?
4.5 hours.
No.
Our computer's about to fill up?
Yeah.
How
We
dare
we
they?
just did a 4.5 hour podcast.
Yeah, we were ready to keep going, too.
Jesus,
Jamie didn't cockblock it.
I do have
Well,
a,
you know what, man? Once you opened up that box, that Pandora's box of
I have a
artificial...
small question about AI that I
Christ.
haven't heard
Go
you
ahead,
guys
hit it.
discuss yet, and I've looked up. Is there any sort of concept of like autism in AI, like a spectrum of AI? Like there are dumb AI and there's going to be smart AI, but
Oh yeah. No, so I mean the scary thing. So it's like super autism. There's no. I mean, across the board, there's I think that superintelligence and motivation and goals are totally separable. So you could have a super intelligent machine that is purposed toward a goal that just seems completely absurd and harmful and non-commonsensical. I mean, so the example that Nick Bostrom uses in his book, Superintelligence, which was a great book, and did more to inform my thinking on this topic than any other source. He talks about a paperclip maximizer. You could build a super intelligent paperclip maximizer. Now, not that anyone would do this, but the point is, you could build a machine that was smarter than we are in every conceivable way, but all it wants to do is produce paperclips. Right now, that seems counterintuitive, but there's no reason, when you kind of dig deeply into this, there's no reason why you couldn't build a superhuman paperclip maximizer. It just wants to turn everything, just like literally the atoms in your body would be better used as paperclips. And so this is just the point he's making is that superintelligence could be very counterintuitive. It's not necessarily going to inherit everything we find as commonsensical or emotionally appropriate or wise or desirable. It could be totally foreign, totally trivial in some way, focused on something that means nothing to us but means everything to it because of some quirk in how its motivation system is structured, and yet it can build the perfect nanotechnology that will allow it to build more paperclips, right? So, at least I don't think anyone can see why that's ruled out in advance. I mean, there's no reason why we would intentionally build that, but the fear is we might build something that either is not perfectly aligned with our goals and our common sense and our aspirations, and that it could form some kind of separate instrumental goals to get what it wants that are totally incompatible with life as we know it. And that's, I mean, again, the examples of this are always cartoonish, like, Elon Musk said, if you built a super intelligent machine and you told it to reduce spam, well, then it could just kill all people. And that's like a great way to reduce spam, right? But see, the reason why that's that's laughable, but you can't assume the common sense won't be there unless we've built it, right? Like, you have to have anticipated all of this. You can't, if you say, take me to the airport as fast as you can, again, this is Bostrom, and you have a super intelligent automatic car, a self-driving car, you'll get to the airport covered in vomit because it's just going to go as fast as it can go. So it's our intuitions about what it would mean to be super intelligent necessarily are I mean, we have to correct for them because I think our intuitions are bad.